897 9323.
Let's be honest. Wheelchairs are heavy, bulky, and ugly. If you carry a wheelchair in your car to take care of a loved one, you know how hard it is getting that clunky, old-style wheelchair in and out of your car. Introducing the Feather Chair Wheelchair. At 13 pounds, it's the world's lightest wheelchair. It folds in seconds and fits neatly in your trunk, backseat, or closet, so you can take it everywhere. And it's only available right here. Order yours today and get a free wheelchair case, a $50 value, yours free. The Feather Chair. The world's lightest wheelchair is just $4.99 with easy payments as low as $16 a month. Sorry, no Medicare or insurance accepted. So call right now to order yours.
800-823-5826. 800-823-5826. 800-823-5826. That's 800-823-5826.
Hello, hello, hello. I'm Sonia V. Welcome to A Common Thread, the wins, the losses, and the curveballs of life. Thank you for joining us this evening. And for those that have not been here for the last few weeks, Eva, my partner in crime, has not been here. She has been on a mission trip in Iceland. How cool is that?
That's awesome.
And so she'll be gone next week, and then we'll be back in 2 weeks back here joining us again. And then we'll switch seats. I'll sit there and she'll sit here. Well, thank you for joining us again. And I'm really happy to be here again. And I know last week we were having some technical difficulties. So today's podcast is on childhood cancer awareness part 2, or continued, but there were some things last week that our viewers were not able to hear. So we want to kind of touch base again for those that are interested in this topic or know someone that's going through this. And so I have my friend here, Dorie Cruz. She's joining me. She's my guest host this week. And I'm going to let her introduce herself.
Hi, my name is Dorie Cruz, and I'm a licensed professional counselor. I work at Southwestern Adventist University as their counselor, and I've done many things with counseling and worked with children in grief, so have a little bit of experience.
A little bit, just a little bit. Dorie, I remember when you were it took you like about 6 years, right, to finish?
It did.
And you were working and
Raising kids.
yeah, your kids
Yes.
were, teenagers that were even younger, I think.
Yeah.
And so I remember that, but then you got done and you walked and it was just this.
Yes.
And then it wasn't over because you still had to get licensed.
Right. I had to do the 3,000 hours
Wow.
to be licensed as a counselor. So
Yeah.
that took about 18 months to get that done once I
Wow.
finally started it.
Wow. See, the thing is, people, when we see somebody that is successful or they complete something and they're like, oh, I want that. But then you don't realize the blood, sweat, and tears that go into. I'm sure there were many times that you wanted to quit, right?
There were. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm almost there.
You are.
Yeah. And I have
so proud of you.
Oh, thank you. Well, I'm proud of myself. I never thought that I would get a master's degree. And here we are, my second to last class. And believe me, there's been a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and times that I was kicking and screaming like a 3-year-old. But hey, here we are. But thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you for asking.
Yeah, absolutely. I want your personal experiences, your expertise on children in grief, and because childhood cancer causes a lot of that, and it's just one of those things that people don't plan on. You don't plan on your kids getting cancer regardless of the age. Some kids are born with it. And I didn't know that. I remember there was a baby on the unit and the family couldn't stay there all the time. They had other children that they were tending to, and they had to leave. They were there a good part of the time, but there were times they had to go, and they had other kids that, because life still happens,
Right.
like they still have soccer and basketball and whatever other activities school has. And, although you can probably say no to some of those things, you can't say no to all of them. And you kinda need to keep a little normalcy for the other kids as much as possible. I know because I had to do that for Lucas.
I remember. I really do remember.
Yeah, it feels like yesterday, but it's been 10 years.
It's hard to believe.
Yeah. For those of you that don't know, or this is your first time here, I'm gonna share my story briefly. So 10 years ago, on August 20th, 2015, my oldest son, who was 9 at that time, was diagnosed with leukemia. He spent 5 months at the Children's Hospital here in the area, and it was a battle of, like, some good moments, some really bad, I mean, lots of bad moments, but some hilltop moments thinking that he was gonna be okay. Because really, like, not everybody from that has cancer dies,
Right.
right? There's some
Yeah.
kids that survive, a lot of kids survive, actually. So, it wasn't like we had no hope. I mean, we thought, "Well, he can beat this, and if it's God's will, he will." Anyway, he spent initially the first couple of weeks in the ICU, and he was intubated, induced coma. That was very scary. And then there were things that we saw in the unit, kids dying in the ICU, and I was like, this is so wrong on so many levels that these kids are like here,
Yeah.
and that they have to go through this kind of thing, and that the families have to go through this thing. But man, that hospital, they were amazing. Shout
They
out to
really were.
shout out to Cook Children's Medical Center in Fort Worth, because they were amazing. And, I don't know to this day what we would have done without them. And, they were just very pivotal in our journey. But you were there, and you were walking alongside us during that time, and, like many others, and we had so much support, and very grateful for all of it. And so September is Childhood Cancer Awareness. And of course, I didn't know that until
Until
until August 21st, the day after my son got diagnosed. Because on August 19th, I had no clue that September was Childhood Cancer Awareness. Because until it hits you, your family, or somebody that you know that's
Yeah.
close to you, you don't know.
No.
Why would you? Right? There's no need to know until you actually go through it. And the color for childhood cancer is gold or yellow. And so you'll see a lot of families that are either currently going through it, or have gone through it before, or supporting someone that has gone through it, wear gold. Now, my son also contracted a autoimmune disease called HLH, and sometimes that happens with either the cancer or the treatment, or both. And initially, I mean, at the end, that's really what took his life, because the cancer, they couldn't find it anymore after that. But then that was just really, it's one of those things that, similar to cancer, there's some treatments that are similar. So, um, there's a chemotherapy drug that you take, or with a steroid, and then, or the cure for that would be a bone marrow transplant.
Mm.
But you have to get the disease under control in order to do that, and that never happened with our son, unfortunately. And his brother was not a match to, and neither was I. So,
No.
and dad couldn't because of physical reasons. They wouldn't allow him to do the procedure that you have to do in order for them to check your bone marrow, or your, anyway. So, that color is actually blue, so I'll wear blue and I'll wear gold throughout the month, little ribbon or something, or sometimes I'll wear a color. Last week I did wear blue and gold, but this week I didn't. So, but you wore blue, so
I
there
wore
you go.
blue.
Yeah.
I wear blue a lot.
You
So
do? You like blue? Yeah. So, to read some, statistics that are interesting besides the yellow and gold. The gold ribbon movement began in the late 1990s and early 2000s, started by parent advocates and organizations like American Childhood Cancer Organization and St. Jude's, that's in Tennessee. So a lot of this stuff that I got, or statistics, are from, this one is from ACCO. And so some of them are from American Cancer Society, some of them are from the World Health Organization. So anything that you hear me reading are going to be from one of those three or four things. And one second, please. Okay. Sorry about that. So, Childhood Cancer Awareness Month was first officially recognized in the US in 1990 by President George H.W. Bush. There isn't a single founder. This movement grew from parents and communities coming together. So, Dory, this podcast is called A Common Thread. So, when I read stuff like coming together, I think communities coming together, I think about how stuff like this brings people together. Why do you think, in like such a difficult time as such, like cancer, why do you think that brings people together?
Because we empathize with, what you're going through. It, brings out, our care for each other.
Yeah.
And, just I remember going through it with you and, wanting to support you and be there for you and couldn't imagine going through that.
Yeah, I think there's something about we just want to help.
Right.
And sometimes we feel helpless. So anything that we can do to help,
Right.
whatever it is. I mean, look, not that prayer is not helpful. It's very helpful. And sometimes somebody's going through something and they'll say, pray for me. And I don't want to just say, well, I'm just praying because prayer is huge, right? But sometimes we want to do something for somebody, something practical, right?
Right.
Making something, taking care of, like, I remember, like, taking care, like you took care of my cat. I remember my cat, poor thing, bless her heart. She was Dorie's cat. And then we got her early of January of 2015. And then when all this was going on, we weren't home a lot. And there was a lot of like, animals can sense when there's something going on.
They know.
And so she would run off a lot and she would end up at Dorie. Lives like down the street from me. And literally like it would take like less than 5 minutes to walk to her house. And Dorie was like, "Do you want me to just take her for now until things get settled?" And I was like, "Sure," because I was getting worried about her. She was always running off. So I said, "Well, she's finding comfort being there with you."
Right.
And to this day, I appreciate that.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, glad to do it.
Thank you for that. And so, yeah, so, cancer is one of those things. And then, when it hits anyone, regardless of kid, adult, but there's something about children, I don't know, because it's just wrong on all levels. No one should be getting cancer. But when a little kid gets cancer,
It seems so unfair.
it does. It
Yeah.
does. And, the parents and the grandparents and, family and the friends that are going through it. I remember my son was 9 and he had like a handful, at least a handful of really good friends. But there were a lot of kids in his class, a couple of kids that were really concerned and really took it really hard when he was in the hospital. And, even I remember one of his friends after he passed, bless his heart, he's so sweet. He came up to me and he goes, "I'll be your son now."
Oh,
Oh my gosh. And he was like in tears. And I was
oh,
like, bless your heart. And I hugged him. And it was just, what do you do? What do you say? There's nothing to say. But yes, it's a terrible thing. And actually 400,000 children a year and teens get diagnosed every year from 0 to 19 years old. That's a lot.
it's incredible.
And 15 to 16,000 children in the US.
Wow.
Yeah. It's a lot. And there's some here that, there's different types of cancer. There's leukemia, which is the more common one. 28% of cancers for children are leukemia. So there's 2 types. Well, I mean, there's many types, but just to give the subcategories, right, of these, but then we're just going to give these right now for time's sake. But there's acute lymphoblastic leukemia, which is also ALL. That's the most common. It's fast growing. That's 4 out of 5 children get that one. And my son actually had AML, which is acute myeloid leukemia, which is the less common. That one's 1 out of 4 kids get that one.
Wow.
So, yeah. So that's the more common one. The next one after that is brain and central nervous system tumors. That's 26%. And cancers that begin in the brain or the spinal cord. Lymphomas are 8 to 10%. Then there's neuroblastoma, which is a cancer from immature nerve cells, usually in the adrenaline glands. Wilms tumor is a kidney cancer, almost always found in children. There's bone cancer. And then there's one here that I know that I'm not gonna pronounce right, so I'm just gonna spell it. So for those that know how to say it out there, let me know. It's RHAB, like boy, D like David, OMYO, sarcoma. I know how to say that part. It says it's cancer of muscle tissue, and retinoblastoma, which is the cancer of the retina in the eye. And boys are diagnosed more often than girls, 53%. So, and then it goes by, ethnicity, non-Hispanic white children, 185.8 million. And then Hispanic is second, American Indian, Alaskan Native, Asian, Pacific Islander, and then African American. And then it talks about other categories here as well. About social economic status, of course, kids that are in areas that hospitals are not nearby because they just don't live, because of they live in a really rural area, or because if they live in another country or they live in an area where they don't have the funds for it, a lot of those kids die.
They don't get
the treatment
diagnosed in time.
Right. And they don't get the treatment that they need. I mean, that was the blessing, right? We live 30 minutes away
Right.
from a children's hospital, and a really, really, really good one. And the fact that we were able to get that treatment and that we had insurance to do so, because a lot of people don't have that. And I mean, at the end of the day, it was like upwards in the like 2 million after my son's died, after everything was said and done. Thank God for insurance.
Right.
Because there's no way anybody can afford that.
Yeah.
And, of course, there's St. Jude's in Tennessee. So some people do go there for treatment as well. We couldn't, for work purposes, we needed insurance and you needed income coming in. One of us would have had to go and one of us would have had to stay or take turns. And, but the support that we received was amazing. And I think even the hospital staff was just like dumbfounded. So many people were coming to visit with us and it was great. And we saw that with some other families as well. But then I saw some other families that didn't have a whole lot of support. And my heart went out to them,
Yeah.
that they had to go through a lot of this by themselves. And sometimes some single parents that had to go through it alone. And it was just sad for me to see. And, these things are terrible, but then I had to look at the blessing in it for myself, as far as I had, besides my family, I had church friends that were just there cheering us on. So that is amazing. So a common thread in tragedy: childhood cancer is devastating. No family expects it. Facing something overwhelming can bind us together, like we mentioned earlier. The one thing I remember, like it says, parents connecting in waiting rooms, communities rallying around a golden ribbon, strangers becoming friends, united by empathy and hope. There is pain, but also a fierce love and unity that grows up beside it. I remember, you don't choose to be thrown into this thing, but then there was this group that, like a therapy group they had every week. And I have some of those people I'm still friends with today.
Right.
It's amazing to me. And, and actually I remember there's specifically 2 or 3 that in that group that also lost their children too. And to this day, we still communicate. We're friends on Facebook. There's one lady that every so often we'll have lunch. And so it's really nice, and that we can support one another and be there for one another. And the amazing things that are coming out of these stories, like some people becoming nurse practitioners and, and specifically wanting to work maybe with kids with cancer, or some working in other areas, but the fact that they were called for that. And I guess I wanted to ask you that question for you, as being a counselor. Since we're talking about calling, what made you want to be a counselor?
I guess the need to help other people. I mean, it took me a long time to finally complete my master's so I could be a counselor. But, I got my undergraduate degree in psychology, and then I was working in a hospice program, and I was
Mm.
doing bereavement support.
Oh, wow.
So working with people who were grieving. And then I also volunteered at a place called The Warm Place, which you know that.
Oh, the war. I didn't know you volunteered
Yes, I
there.
volunteered at The Warm Place for
Uh,
probably 3 to 4 years.
Shout out to the war
The Warm
place.
Place, loved The Warm Place. And
Yeah.
the only reason I left there is because I was pregnant with my son and had issues with my pregnancy, and so then I never went back. But it's always been, I wanna help people.
Mm.
And so then, once I got my master's and, I knew then, of course, I wanted to be a counselor. And so, and like when I worked at Southwestern and we worked together, I was doing disability support, but still I enjoyed the talking with the students and just,
Being that
listening. And
guiding and helping.
yes,
Wow, that's amazing. So the warm place, for those that don't know, it's a support group for children, but and for different losses, for a loss of sibling, for parent loss, for grandparent, and other
yes,
losses, other family losses. And the kids meet by group, like age group,
age
and
group.
then parents, or if it's like the sibling group, the mom and dad kind of separate. If there's both mom and dad present, the men go in one group, women go in another group. Now if it's a parent loss group, then like all the parents meet
Go
in one
together.
group,
Yeah.
and then the kids kind of categorize into their own groups, and then they have a potluck. And so it's a really nice, again, community coming
Yes,
together.
it's amazing.
And it's right down the street from the children's hospital where we were at. And of course, I would not have known about that place. I didn't know about it. Didn't need to know.
Right.
And then when this all happened and our son passed, that was the one thing before we left the hospital that they said, they gave us information about the warm place. I'm like, what is this? And we went until January of this year.
Wow, I
Yeah.
did not realize that.
Yeah. Well, because we took a break for a little while, and my husband got sick and whatnot. And because the timeline is, my son got sick in August of 2015. He passed in January 2016. Then my husband got sick in September of 2016. So we were only in the group maybe 6 months, and then he got sick. And then really it was like on and off after that, because it was just so much going on. And then my husband passed in March of 2018. And then we took another break, like for 6 months or so after that, and then went back. And so we did the child loss group for about 3 years, and then then took a break, and then COVID happened, and then they were closed
Right.
kind of group. I mean, they had like online, but we never did the online one. And that was about a year and a half or so. So anyway, so there was a lot of breaks in between. So, but it was amazing. And I would recommend anyone who has children that are going through something, that I would recommend that place if you live in the area.
They are awesome.
They are awesome. And I'm actually thinking about one day volunteering there when my life is not so busy.
Right.
So anyway, but we have about, I guess, a little 4 minutes or so in regards to time wise. And usually, Dorie, in the second half, we usually like to talk about biblical perspectives as far as, loss and and children even getting sick in the Bible, and the promises that we have, and all of those things that we kind of like to tie the Bible into that as well, and how even in biblical times it was a common thread, and how people came together during times of difficulty and whatnot. So, but for those that want to we're going to take about 3 minutes maybe to do this. If you want to support someone that is going through something like this story, what do you think is the best way for someone to be supported during this time, like if they're going through a cancer diagnosis?
Well, I think the most important thing is to be there for them. But you can ask them, what do you need? But sometimes they don't know what they need. So being able to, bring them food. And I think I remember we set up for you guys, didn't we?
Food train.
A food train. And
Mm.
so,
Lots of food. We gained a lot of weight.
But that was
It was a
a
blessing.
physical way for us to help. Maybe buy groceries and go and take them to someone. Offer to watch the kids that are at home.
Mm.
Offer to maybe go to the hospital and sit with the child that's in the hospital so that they can get 30 minutes to just go and take a walk.
Mm.
But, just, I guess, think outside the box and think about, what you yourself might want or need in that situation, and then offer, you know.
Yeah, those are good practical tips. And for those that are going through it, trust and believe that I know it's easier said than done, but when people want to help, let them.
Yes.
You're not, you're not an island by yourself. And you don't have to have a huge village, even if it's just like 10 people. Let them help you. Let them take turns. We had people coming to the hospital. There were times that we couldn't get a volunteer to sit with my son for whatever reason. Maybe there wasn't something available at that time. But my other son had a Thanksgiving thing at his school that we would all go to with for the boys, because both my sons went to the same school. And I remember that I was like, well, my husband couldn't come because he was working. And I was like, oh, I need help. And so someone came and sat with him for those, like, I don't know, it was like 2.5 hours. 30-minute drive back, 30-minute drive there, and an hour being there. So it was just, I needed to be there for both my sons, but I couldn't split myself.
Right.
So, but the fact that somebody can come and sit with my son in the hospital, that I can go be with my other son, was just, amazing to me. So I wasn't the type to ask for help before, but man, I have no shame now. I mean, of course, as much as possible, I try to do things on my own. But we're up like almost up to the 30-minute mark. And so we're going to come back in like 2 minutes once the music starts playing. And we want you to come back and join us for part 2 or second half of this. And, we'll continue to talk about childhood cancer and how you can be a support to people, and also the biblical principles that we can pull out of these tragedy moments. And no one asks for these things to happen, but we can walk alongside each other. There's our music. So we'll see you in the second half.
If you're trying to quit drinking or doing too many drugs, listen to me. You don't know me and we'll never meet. I had a problem like you once. I drank and used to party a little too much till it got out of control and almost ruined my life. I realized I needed help to fix my problem before it totally destroyed me. If you've tried to fix your drinking and drug problem and you know you can't do it alone, you need to call the National Treatment Advisors. They'll immerse you into a 30-day program to replace your old habits with new habits and totally change your life. And if you have PPO private health insurance, the entire program may be covered. Fix your problem right now before it gets any worse. Get clean. Call now and learn more. 877-247-1581. 877-247-1581. 877-247-1581.
Attention all business owners and creative minds. Do you need a unique and personalized touch for your products? Look no further than Romika Laser Engraving and Custom Designs. I'm Ron Phillips, co-owner of Romika Designs. We offer custom laser engraving services for a variety of products, including promotional items and corporate or personal gifts. With state-of-the-art equipment and a team of skilled designers, we can engrave intricate designs on virtually any material. Whether it's a special message, a company logo, or a custom design, Romika Laser Engraving will help you make your mark. And the best part, our prices are affordable and our turnaround time is quick.
I couldn't be happier with the work Romika Laser Engraving did for me. The engraving on my product was precise and exactly what I wanted.
So don't wait any longer to add a personal touch to your products. Call Romika Laser Engraving and Custom Designs today at 817-400-4040 or visit our website at romikadesigns.com. We look forward to helping you make your mark.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to A Common Thread. I'm Sonia V. Thank you for joining us again. NTX Radio proudly serves all of North Texas and can be heard all over the world on TuneIn Radio Network and on the NTX Radio app available on Android and Apple CarPlay, or just ask Alexa to play NTX Radio. Check out our lineup and more at ntxradio.com. We thank our valued sponsors in helping us amplify the voices of North Texas communities and businesses. So, protect your family with a will or trust. Connect with Todd Hurd and Associates, attorneys at law, for all your civil law needs at texasattorneylaw.com. Processing credit cards? Join the Swipe Nation today and save on processing fees at swipenationusa.com. Locally owned and operated and will beat any rates. Got sleeves? Dress your arms and more at thetiffy.com for women's accessories and more, made in the USA. And it's time to take your business to the next level. Hosting a radio show and a podcast is a powerful way to connect with a wider audience, build brand awareness, and drive sales. Let's discuss your business goals and how a custom show can help you achieve them. Email Tiffany at t.hurd@ntxradio.com to get amplified. All right. Well, thank you for joining us again. We are talking about September is Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, and the colors for childhood cancer are gold. So if you want to change your Facebook page or social media page to put a ribbon on it just to represent the month in support of someone maybe you know, or just just in general as just to support the awareness. Again, it wasn't something that you're aware of, and I think it's important to educate regarding things of this nature and how to be a support to those that are going through it. And it's, we don't think it's common, but it's more common than we think. So it's just that people don't always talk about their stuff because we feel like sometimes you feel isolated, you feel alone, you feel people, no one's going to understand. Now you feel like you have this big, I know I felt like I had like this big neon sign over me, like my child has cancer. And you walk into the room and there's like this elephant in the room, and then people like change because you're in the room now, and now they feel like they have to talk about something else. Maybe they were laughing and now they're not laughing anymore. And so anyway, but we're glad that you're back, and we're hoping that this topic brings awareness to you, and you can share this. This is on Facebook, so you can share it with those that that are going through it, or if you just feel encouraged by it, maybe you can share it on your Facebook page. That'd be wonderful. Or if you're watching it on YouTube, you can share it there as well. So we would love, love, love that if you did that. So we're going to talk about the biblical perspectives regarding bearing one another's burdens, being there for people when they're going through things like cancer. And how do you walk alongside each other? Well, the Bible tells us in Galatians 6:2, it says, carry each other's burdens, and in this way you will fulfill the law of Christ. This reminds us that Christian community means stepping up in to help carry the load when others are struggling. So, although it says Christian communities, this is for everybody. Because you don't have to be a Christian to carry someone's burden. When there's a sinking ship, if someone doesn't believe what I believe or doesn't have any beliefs, I'm not about to ask them, by the way, what do you believe?
Grabbing them and helping them up.
You're going to help. 9/11 happened. We didn't care.
That's for sure.
When there's floods, we don't care. We just help. We don't ask people questions. We're just there. And so carrying each other's burdens is not just a Christian duty, it's a human duty. Although we find this in the Bible, anyone can walk alongside someone when they're going through a cancer diagnosis and their kid is going through this. The one thing that is amazing to me, and I shared a little bit about it, but just the great things people do when after they go through something like this, there's this like, okay, now what? What do I do with this? Now, that's not sometimes you don't discover that right away. It could take a long time. And I always tell people grieve, grieve, grieve. Take care of yourself. Grieving is taking care of yourself. And grieving is the internal part of it. The mourning, whatever you see externally, the crying, the anger, frustration, all of that is the mourning piece of it. So please do that. Take time to do that. And it looks different for everybody, right, Dorie?
It does. It does not look the same. One person's grief does not look like this person's grief. It's going to be totally different. And each day is going to be different.
Right, right. And so take care of yourself. So taking time to cry, taking time for reflection, taking time, whatever. I went to this thing, I forgot the name of it, but I don't know if it's in Fort Worth or Arlington. But basically you go over there and you break stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know, I forgot what there's a specific, I know it's like you break a break room, like you break
Yeah.
things in it. And I think you have like 20 minutes and you can break I remember going there, it was like about maybe 2 or 3 years ago. And I broke things in like, it was like dust, especially things that were like bases and things like that. It was like the guy came in there afterwards. He's like, oh my gosh, you didn't leave anything. We can't even put it together, even if we wanted to. And so for me, it felt good because I cried when I did it. And it just felt so good. I felt like it was like therapy. I need to go back and do that again. Yeah.
That's good.
I recommend, I mean, you have equipment to protect you. They put you in this gear. So, there's glass in there and stuff, right? So you have like stuff to protect you. But going back, because when you're doing stuff, when God, you ask that question, what do I do now with this? It doesn't mean you stop grieving. It just means that now your grief is being channeled in a different way. So although you're still, you still internally feel that it's not that raw grief, right? It's just now you're like, okay, now I want to live this out in my life. I want to do something that adds meaning and purpose for it. And so you hear these stories of people, wanting to become, like I said, a nurse practitioner. I decided that I wanted to become a chaplain. And then I've heard other stories of, people starting foundations and things like that. And it's just like the stuff that happens to us is terrible. And we're not saying by all means that what we go through in this life, it's not. So please don't tell people that, don't make light of what people are going through.
Don't minimize their grief.
Right. Because what people are going through, although God can use that, it doesn't mean that what they're going through is okay.
No. God can bring good out of it.
Right.
But, grieve, let them grieve what they're going through.
Right. And so the devil has a plan, but so does God.
His is bigger.
And his is bigger and greater. And his is always going to end up winning in the end.
Yes.
So, walking in that victory, it doesn't mean now victory can look different for different people. Doesn't mean that you won't cry, but it means that you'll push through regardless. See, the thing is, faith is not about the absence of things because you could still be afraid, but still walk in it. Right. And so when you're going through this, faith looks different for different people. And if somebody's is crying or upset or having a moment, It doesn't mean that they don't have faith. It just means that they're having a moment and they're human. And so, but it's just amazing to me how God can, like, the devil's like, oh, I'm gonna, cause this, like he did to Job, right? And then God's like, okay, I'll let you, but watch them. And it's amazing to me what, God can do in someone's life when they're going through something like that. And you don't prepare for that kind of thing in the storm, right?
Nope.
The Bible talks about, the man that built his house on the sand and the one that built his house on the rock. You don't build the house during a storm. That would look ridiculous, right? If you saw somebody building a house when it was like raining or stormy and thunder, you look at your neighbor and be like, what is wrong with them? But you do that before. You create a foundation before, and then when you go through it, then you can stand. Now, standing doesn't mean that you won't have moments that you're crying. It just means that you're gonna keep pushing through and asking the Lord, Lord, I can't do this. I'm tired, I'm frustrated, and you said that you would be there, and I'm gonna trust that you are, but right now I need you to carry me. And sometimes the prayer is nothing, no words. It's just tears, and that's okay too. So, another verse in the Bible, comforting others as God comforts us. 2 Corinthians, oh, I love this verse. This is one of my favorite. Well, this is one of the verses that is my motto as a chaplain. In 2 Corinthians 1:3-4, it says, praise be to the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, the Father of compassion and the God of all comfort, who comforts us in all our troubles so that we can comfort those in any trouble with the comfort we ourselves receive from God. We're called to pass on the comfort and compassion we've received from God to those who are hurting.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it is. I didn't know what I was going to do with all of this when it happened, but I don't know when exactly I had this thought, but it was just months and months later. I thought, Lord, I don't know what you're going to do with this, but I just know I just want to be a source of comfort to someone, because this pain can't be for nothing. And to hold on and to let this internalize forever until like I take my last breath. Yeah, I don't want to do that. And so, shortly after that, maybe some months later, then I had a friend who wanted to be a chaplain, and she was studying at the Dallas Baptist University, and she was a social worker, and now she wanted to be a chaplain. And she would come and pick up our son and take him to school some days, and her and I would just chit chat for a little bit. And I was like, that's it. That's what I want to do. Because I was like actually going between that and becoming a counselor, because I've always kind of had that kind of heart to want to do stuff like that. I was a teacher before. And so, but I was like, no, that's what I want to do. I want to become a chaplain. Because I remember the chaplain we had. It was like, when you watch a movie and you see like the rays of like light coming through like the clouds. So when she would walk into the room, there was always this ray in the midst of darkness. And just she knew the right thing to say and when to say it, and not just with me and my husband, but also with John Marco, our oldest, and Lucas too. And she's just amazing. And she's retired now, but man, she was an amazing chaplain. And so when I would go back to thinking of her and then my friend who was studying, I said that, and two females, by the way,
Wow.
I thought, yeah, if God can use those two women, he's going to be able to use me too.
Definitely.
And so anyway, let me, go to the next verse. Rejoice and mourning together. Romans 12:15 says, rejoice with those who rejoice, mourn with those who mourn. Empathy and togetherness, celebrating joys and sharing sorrows are central to biblical community. Well, community in general. But, I understand the perspective where this is coming from because we're sharing Bible verses. But, we're not, this life is like, so our show before, Eve and I were doing like an audio podcast, and it was called Life's Hills and Valleys. And that's kind of how life is, right?
Yeah.
there's this hilltop moments and then there's valley moments and in between moments, and we don't know when the valley moments are going to come. But I joke around and say, well, if you live long enough, you're going to experience some valley moments. And this was a very valley moment for our family and a lot of the families that I met since then. The next verse is 1 Thessalonians 5:11. Therefore, encourage one another and build each other up, just as in fact you are doing. We're urged not just to help, but to lift each other up, especially during tough times. So, I remember the one thing I think maybe you dealing with bereavement and grief for a lot longer than I have. I think saying someone's name
Oh, yes.
is so important. So this weekend we just went to the children's hospital where my son was at. They have a yearly celebration of life, and we went, and that was one of the things they talked about, say their name. And I remember there were times after my son died, especially the months following, that I would still call his name. I would call my youngest his name. I would say John Marco. And I remember I was working at the university, and I'm going to give a shout out to this friend because she was just, you remember Amy McHenry?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So her son, her oldest, so if you're watching this, Amy, hi. She doesn't live here anymore in Texas, but she's yeah. So her oldest was really good friends with John Marco. They were maybe a year apart. Anyway, I remember one day she walked into the office and she just said, this morning I had this memory of John Marco, and she just started sharing it. And I started crying. And I thought, what a gift she just gave me. So if you know anybody that's going through stuff and they lost either a child or someone that they love, say their name because it would mean the world to them.
That's and like she did with you, to tell a memory
Mm,
that tells you that someone else remembers my child.
right.
Or,
Right.
my loved one. So
Yeah.
they're not forgotten.
Yeah, because that's always the fear that your loved one is forgotten. And we don't want our loved ones to be forgotten. We know life goes on, and we know that people can't be consistently helping you, because we know they have their own lives, right? That's the way life is. But when you're able to say their name, when you see them, I remember the time, and it could be a funny memory. It doesn't have to be doom and gloom all the time either. I mean, I share funny stories about my son all the time. And,
Can I share one of my favorite memories?
Sure, go ahead.
John Marco. So when we worked together many years ago, and she would come, and sometimes the boys would come with her. Well, they got a hold of some of the candy, and they were eating the candy, and it seemed like for weeks after that, I was finding candy wrappers. So that's one of my memories of John Marco.
That's hysterical.
Candy wrappers.
Oh, the candy bandits. They stole the candy. Yeah, they took candy. That's hysterical. Oh my gosh. I didn't even know that. That's so funny. I love it. Yeah, I remember we would in the building that because I worked in two departments. They were kind of together but separate. And the department that Dorie and I worked in were the counseling and testing center. And so I had to be there part of the time during my hours there. And so in that building is the dinosaur museum.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, and my oldest boy, did he love dinosaurs. And so there was a triceratops skull there, and he would be, Mamina, look at that skull, in awe. Anyway, it was, yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
Yeah, that's a funny story. See, we can share, and they could also bring some laughter. Love in action. John 13 to 34, 34 to 35 says, a new commandment I give you, love one another as I have loved you. So you must love one another. By this, everyone will know that you are my disciples if you love one another. The defining mark of Christian life is practical, selfless love, especially for those walking through pain or grief. So I remember after my son's funeral, my sister, if I can find that post, man, but I would have to go back to almost 10 years. But she shared something. She was here for a few days. She came like the day after. Our son died on a Wednesday. She came on Thursday, her and my mom. And she stayed, I think, until Monday because the funeral was until, I think, Sunday. And she shared this long post on Facebook saying how she was like so amazed about the love and the compassion and the community that she saw like during like she's like it's amazing what I witnessed, and I now know why my sister and my brother-in-law don't want to leave. Like I would like she was like the people that came out, even strangers that were like people that were strangers before, or maybe just very distant, like acquaintances, like just coming together. And for her, it was such a great witness of God's love, God's compassion, you know, and I think we've all witnessed this. Sometimes, Dory, we feel like we need to defend God with our words.
It's not that, it's our actions.
A friend of mine who's a chaplain, she said, and I'm not going to quote her exactly, but the two ways that God shows us is through his love and through his presence. And being present when someone sometimes not even saying anything. I remember the night that my son had the diagnosis, and we had these two students from the university, bless their hearts. They're such sweet girls. And I mean, they're grown and married now, but they were just such a blessing. And then a couple of other coworkers that came to my house, and one of them actually came to the hospital as well, and just sat there with me. And there were moments that I didn't say anything. I mean, I was just like dumbfounded. I was in shock, numb. I couldn't believe that this was happening. This doesn't happen to us, but it was happening to us. It wasn't a dream or that I was going to wake up out of. And the love and compassion that we felt was just the common thread is God's love, God's compassion, God's presence, is all doesn't matter what race you are, what political party you are, um, religion, lack of religion, whatever. When we come together, none of those things matter. And we don't ask those questions because those questions don't matter because when we see another human being suffering,
Be there for them.
we need to be there for them. And the common thread is that we all go through suffering and grief, but we through joy and happiness too. And so we all have blood, the same blood running through our veins. And we don't always know what people are going through because people don't always share those things because sometimes it's difficult. Um, but the person working at Walmart might be having a bad day, and we don't always know what they're going through. Maybe their child just got diagnosed with cancer, but they still have to work and support their family, and they can't maybe be at the hospital 24/7. But maybe they have people hopefully helping them with that kind of thing. Coming together, um, friends, family, and things of that nature. We have about 3 minutes left. I did want to share. Um, Again, there's a lot of foundations that you can support. The St. Jude's in Tennessee. If you want to make donations to St. Jude's, you can go there on their website and make donations there. Or you can go to the American Cancer Society and you can make a donation there on their website. Or if you have a children's hospital nearby, or if you want to go on their website, you can go on the website here. The hospital that my son was at was um, Cook Children's Medical Center in Fort Worth. If you want to support them and their cause and what they do there, you can go on their website and you can make a donation. Or if you want, you can also volunteer,
Oh, yeah. Volunteering
like
is great.
like Dory did.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can volunteer there. I think you have to be like minimum 16. I think the high school kids can do it like in the summertime. If that's something that you want your young person to do. But there's so many ways to help. I know there was at some point after COVID, we couldn't do it anymore, but we were bringing food there. Oh, you came with us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A couple times.
Yeah. So I would, my husband and I, we would do it. We were doing it at first. And then, after he passed, we took a break for a little bit. And then I started doing it again. And we did it for about another 2.5 years. And then COVID happened and we had to stop. But we would go once a month and we would bring soup, salad, dessert, and talk with the families. And they were so grateful for that. And there were moments that, a few times that they asked me why I'm doing this and kind of just briefly mentioned it without going into all the details. And for them, that it was so meaningful to them to know that someone that was in their position now, it gives them hope because they see, oh, she's okay. So I'll be okay too. Even though right now I'm not okay. Because you're filled with so much anxiety and hurt and uh, fear and anger and all these so many feelings, right? But if you want to help volunteering, making a monetary donation, or even going up there and maybe you can donate food or maybe stuffed animals for Christmas, or I don't know if you knit, you can make
Yeah.
little blankets, and it gets really cold in the hospital. So trust and believe that it is helpful to have those blankets because it's freezing. So anything helps. So we're just grateful that you joined us this evening. And, Eva and I always like to end our podcast with a saying that her father used to say, um, keep looking up. And something that my son said as well when he was in the hospital was, don't give up, hold on to Jesus. And the podcast, we want to create hope, awareness and hope, and that if you're going through this, that you're not alone. So thank you for joining us, and we will see you next week at 6 p.m. Thank you.
From Burleson to Venus and Grandview to Godley, this is the voice of Johnson County, Joco Community Radio.
Hey travelers, do you want to save money on your next flight? Then pick up the phone and call. That's right, call, because the best prices are not online. They're with SmartFares. See, SmartFares has special deals with the airlines. When they have unsold seats, they use SmartFares to fill them. So you get airline tickets at ridiculously low prices. Our prices are too low to publish online. With the extra money you'll save, you can book another trip or treat yourself to dinner or shopping. So stop searching all of those travel sites to find the lowest price on your next flight. Let one of our SmartFares expert travel agents find ridiculously low prices for you. Call SmartFares today and get the best price on your next flight. Guaranteed. Also, save up to 50% off business and first class tickets.
855-325-1820. 855-325-1820. That's 855-325-1820. Have you ever met a single person in your life that